And so I've really been sitting with this lately. I've really been thinking about this, and I've started to ask myself, like, at what point do your habits and routines, even if they're healthy, at what point do they actually become a hindrance and keep you from growing? I know so much more now in this phase of my life, being a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, having spent so many years in the fitness industry, all of that stuff, that I feel like I can really approach these fitness goals from a completely different perspective than I could even like 7 or 8 years ago. And so, yeah, I want to see how much I can push myself physically in these next 90 days. This is when I'm going to put all of like the last 10 to 15 years worth of knowledge, compress it into this next 90 days where I am going to coach myself and really put everything to the test. There's an idea that our bodies and minds operate on 90-day cycles. Complete cellular turnover, which is how long it takes for every cell in your body to be replaced and become new again, takes about 90 days. Hormonal cycles, especially in women, which has such a big impact on our mood and our energy and our overall well being, also typically takes around 90 days. It adjusts in 90-day cycles. Shifting metabolism and weight long term can also typically take 90 days. And even shifting our mindset and behavior and creating new habits also takes the brain about 90 days to fully adapt to. This is all on the microcosm level, right? Everything that's happening inside of us. But this can also be seen on the macro level, like the seasons, for example, which also go in about like 3-month, 90-day cycles. If you've watched some of my other videos, you know that I place a lot of emphasis in moving with the seasons, moving in the way that is most aligned to the energy of the world around us. And right now we just hit spring, and spring is all about growth and energy, and it is the most yang time of the year. This is the time of year when the energy of the world really lends itself to supporting big goals and lofty aspirations and just big ideas and big transformations. So I have a pretty solid routine. My habits are decent. I try to prioritize self-care as much as possible. Some days are better than others, some weeks are better than others. Everything kind of just goes up and down, which is super natural. It's just the way that things go. But lately, I've just been more aware of this sense of stagnation. There's been too much of this feeling of being on autopilot, and I'm sure that this is something that you can probably understand for yourself too, where you kind of just have those moments or phases in your life where you're just going through the motions, and it feels like you are being productive, but up to a certain point. And so I've really been sitting with this lately. I've really been thinking about this, and I've started to ask myself, like, at what point do your habits and routines, even if they're healthy, at what point do they actually become a hindrance and keep you from growing? Whatever that point is, I feel like I've reached it. So I decided to use this spring energy to create a little challenge for myself and to use the spring energy to create like a launching pad to help me achieve some big goals that I've had, that I've been thinking about for a very long time and have always just kind of had like some excuse for. So over these next 90 days, I'm going to completely overhaul my habits. I am going to recreate my patterns and daily practices with the intention of reaching some very specific goals that I've been too afraid to go for a very long time. This is when I'm going to put all of like the last 10 to 15 years worth of knowledge, compress it into this next 90 days where I am going to coach myself and really put everything to the test. But first, I want to share my why. Like, why am I doing this? Like I mentioned earlier, there's been some blocks that I've just becoming more and more aware of lately, especially. And as I continue progressing on my journey, I notice these blocks coming up more and more. And at that point, it's like, okay, these things are probably coming up because I need to address them. They're obviously hindering my progression to the next level in my journey. So it's time for me to move past those blocks. I've recognized that I've gotten really comfortable with the way that I do things, and there's only so much growth that's available to you when you've gotten comfortable and cozy and set in your ways. The only way to grow is to make yourself uncomfortable. Growth is not a comfortable thing. And I'm aware of this, and I just know that it's gotten to that point in my journey where it's really time for me to make myself uncomfortable, to challenge myself. And that is the whole purpose behind this 90-day challenge for me, is to make myself very uncomfortable by pushing myself to do some things that have been at the back of my mind and have been on my wish list, some of them for years at this point, but that I always have some excuse for. And to be completely honest with myself, those excuses are all pretty lame. Like, they're all just things that I like create in my head to give myself an out for not pursuing a big goal, because it feels safer to be where I'm at, even though I really want to be over there. It's just a little bit scary getting there, but it's time for me to go there, right? So my theory is that by making myself really uncomfortable in one area of my life, I'm talking mind, body, spirit, by making myself really uncomfortable in one area of my life, it's going to create some momentum. It's going to get rid of the stagnant energy that I've been feeling. And that in turn is going to create movement and momentum in other areas of my life, which hopefully that means that by the end of this, my life will be completely unrecognizable. Big goal. So what are my goals with this? First is to shift my mindset. I really want to develop better discipline and consistency and motivation and self-confidence. I want to feel like I want to stop acting and start being. Two, I really want to push past some self-limiting beliefs that I have. I'm sure that you can relate to some self-limiting beliefs that you might have for why you can't go for that goal that you've had in mind all this time. And for me specifically, it's addressing some blocks related to capability, ability, and abundance. There's a very specific direction that I want to take my work and my practice in. But there's also a lot of fear surrounding this, and I don't know exactly where that fear comes from. I've kind of sat with it, and I don't really know why that fear is there. I don't know if it's like the fear of failure or if it's the fear of success, which it doesn't make sense, but it also makes so much sense as to why I would be holding myself back in some areas. And that's something that I would definitely love to get past over these next 90 days. Two is to increase my chi and my vitality and just my life force. This is especially important as we age, as we get older. It just becomes so much easier to slow down. And I work with so many people on a weekly basis who are really struggling with so many health concerns and chronic conditions, and everybody's journey is so different. My journey is super different from your journey, from their journey. And where I'm at right now, I'm just realizing that it's just such a gift to be able to have the ability to move and use my body the way that I do and can if I were to push myself. And so for me, probably like since, I don't know, high school is when I really started getting into sports, a little bit of a late bloomer in that sense compared to most people, but movement and exercise is always something that has brought me so much joy. And I have some goals related to this that I've just kind of been pushing away, and I've had them at the back of my mind for a very long time and always have an excuse as to why not. There is no better moment than now, right? This is the only moment that we will ever have, is this present moment. And why not do it now? Why wait for later? So that is what I'm going to keep telling myself. And yeah, I am going to use this challenge to help increase just my overall energy, and that's going to lead to better health outcomes overall. The fourth thing that I really want to see through to the end of this 90-day challenge is I want to see how completing this challenge and all of the things that I'm going to be tackling over these next 90 days, how that will help me manifest the life that I dream of. There's something to being able to set and achieve goals, no matter how big or how small, that creates a lot of energetic movement in your life. I'm sure that you can think back to a time where you set a goal for yourself and you achieved it and everything felt so good. And it kind of just, when you create that kind of momentum in your life, it starts to attract more positive experiences into your life. It attracts more people, more opportunities, more situations that are going to slowly guide you closer to where you are meant to be. And this is where like the spiritual aspect of this really comes up for me. It's above all, I see this challenge as bringing me into a deeper alignment with myself, which ultimately will bring me closer to my purpose. And being closer to your purpose, being in bigger alignment with yourself, that's where you really start to call in the magic of life. So how? Like I mentioned earlier, the overall way that I'm going to start this challenge is on a physical level, because what 90-day challenge would be complete without some big lofty like fitness goals, right? So for me, it's going to be two things that I'll be focusing on for the next 90 days. And the first one is going to be running. I have always hated running and I've always really wanted to love it at the same time. So I don't see myself running a marathon. That's definitely not like a goal of mine or something that I would like to work towards. That just doesn't appeal to me. But I do really enjoy like short, intense bursts of work. So I'm thinking like sprints and interval training. And it's not super huge by like other, like in comparison to like running a marathon or whatever, Ironman. But I would love to make running a regular part of my routine. And I've already kind of been working on this a little bit over the last month or so, doing a little bit here, a little bit there. But because I have never been a runner, I get so sore from it. I am talking like days of hobbling and limping around because of how sore my calves and my feet are. And it's like a whole different level of soreness than I get even from when I lift weights. So I know that I need to get my tendons and my ligaments and my joints and my muscles just in that kind of shape. So by the end of this challenge, I really hope to make running a regular part of my routine. I want to get past that pain. I want to just make it to where my body is able to take that kind of impact, has the stamina, has the endurance, and I just really want to challenge my cardiovascular fitness in a completely different way. The second one, and the main one, really, running is kind of just a bit of a support for the main physical goal that I have for these next 90 days, which is swimming. I would love to get back into swimming shape. I was a swimmer in high school and I loved it. Like I think back to that time and I just miss how much of a mental challenge the workouts were, and just like the energy and all of the energy that came along with like the competition side of it. These next 90 days, my goal is to get back into swimming shape. If I can get back to swimming the times that I was swimming back then, that would be amazing. I would be on cloud nine. But just to be able to get back into swimming shape would really just satisfy this goal that I have. I know so much more now in this phase of my life, being a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, having spent so many years in the fitness industry, all of that stuff, that I feel like I can really approach these fitness goals from a completely different perspective than I could even like 7 or 8 years ago. And so, I want to see how much I can push myself physically in these next 90 days. And, I'm going to be getting regular acupuncture. I'm planning on doing yoga. I'm going to definitely keep a close eye on rest and recovery, which is super important when you're tackling like new fitness goals and introducing new forms of exercise into your routine. So it's going to be fun, I think. So it'll be a little bit of a mental challenge. And again, like I said, I am using this physical, concrete goal to kickstart and move energy in other areas of my life. Mentally, I do have some mental blocks around productivity, discipline, and motivation that I am hoping to really overcome over these next 90 days. I am planning on setting consistent time blocks aside each week that are a non-negotiable so that I can really tackle some deep work. This is something that I have been really struggling to be consistent with over the last few years, especially as it relates to just some career related goals that I would like to achieve. And one of the things that I know will get me there, in addition to the things that I just mentioned, is saying no more. Fear of missing out is out the window. We're leaving that in 2024. Saying no more really just conserves and protects your energy, your space. And I know that I have a tendency of saying yes because honestly, sometimes it's kind of like a distraction or maybe another form of self-sabotage. I don't know. Kind of feeding into those mental blocks that I have that I mentioned earlier. Also with this is I want to do what I can to keep my mind and my energy clean. This is through the information and the things that I'm listening to. For example, probably not indulging in crime podcasts as much, which I actually haven't done in a very long time, but that's just kind of an example. Also just being more intentional with maybe reading more and watching less TV, or maybe the conversations that I participate in, the environments that I put myself in, the people that I spend time with. Those are all forms of keeping your mind and your energy clean. So that's going to be a big focus for me these next 90 days. From the spiritual side, like I mentioned earlier, I really want to use this momentum to help me lean more seriously into my purpose and the vision that I have for how I want to help others transform their lives using all of the knowledge and the experiences that I have. That is something that would give me the most joy and the most satisfaction. That's where I get the biggest reward, I guess, in the work that I do, even in the treatment room when I'm working with patients and acupuncture and herbal medicine and things like that. It's just being able to witness people transforming their lives simply by sharing some things that I have in my own toolbox. And so again, there's a lot of self-limiting beliefs surrounding this for me around worth and abundance. And even now, 4 years into practice and 7 years of studying this medicine and all these other years of experience in other forms of, in other aspects of healthcare and fitness and wellness, I still very much struggle with imposter syndrome or feeling like I don't know enough. And that is something that no one can help me overcome besides myself. So that's going to be a big goal for me and a big measure of progress for these next 90 days. Specifically, by the end of these 90 days, I would like to have a framework done that will help guide me into the next phase of my practice and a solid plan for how I'm going to get there. I haven't decided yet if I am going to be posting weekly episodes or if I want to do every 2 weeks. If you have any suggestions, please share them in the comments. I'd love some feedback or any ideas that you might have. Regardless, make sure to subscribe if you'd like to follow along on this journey with me. And if you want to do your own 90-day challenge and we can help keep each other accountable, I would love to connect with you. See you guys in the next video.